umelo. We're going to turn to page 8. For Or Zarua, light is sown for the righteous. I'm a brief interruption here. You know, there's no such thing as coincidence. We're all good? Okay. So we're on page 8. There's no such thing as coincidence, I believe, in general. And people try to send us messages from beyond. And I talked about this last week if you were listening on Saturday morning through the movie Souls, which is a fantastic movie and it explains one of the Jewish views of the afterlife from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. So light is sown for the righteous. A man who represents light in a couple different ways died yesterday. His name was Jack Coulter, one of the favorite people that you will ever meet. He was a real light amid any kind of darkness as a human being, but he also provided light. He was an electrician. I did most of the wiring for the synagogue for decades, and some in my house too. But he, right before services, about 10 minutes before services, the lights all went out here on the courtyard. Jack, yeah, we need you still, it's true. But because of what you set up, we were able to fix it. So thank you, Jack. And here we go, light is sown for the righteous. On the same token, we're in the Murray Davis courtyard. You see the sign right behind me, Murray Davis. Many of you don't know who he was. A great guy, a tall, slender, very handsome guy, fabulous musician, and he created, along with me, the Rock and Roll Shabbat Band. Unfortunately, he died tragically of a heart attack in his mid-50s. And very, very sad. And I miss him greatly. That's the name that's behind me. I picked up this book. I pick up a Siddur, a random one, every time. And who's the dedication to? It's from Murray and Virginia Davis in memory of Murray's father, Les Davis. Now, you would say, well, maybe there's a whole bunch of them like that. No, this is the only one, and that happened to be the one that I picked tonight. So, hello, Murray. Hello, Jack. Nice to hear from you. Or Zarua, Lat Tzaddik, light is sown for the righteous. Page 8. Or Zarua, Lat Tzaddik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzaddik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzaddik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzaddik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. O Yishrei Lev Simcha. All right, we're going to jump now to page 13, Mizmor LeDavid. Page 13. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai bnei Elim, Havu l'Adonai, Kavod va'oz, ay, Havu l'Adonai, Kevod shimo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai, Behadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai, Al hamayim el hakavod yirim, Adonai, Al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai, Ba'koach, ay, Kol Adonai, Be'adar Kol Adonai, Shover Arazim, Vayshaver Adonai, Et Arze Halvanon, Vayarkirem Kemo Egel, Levanon, Ve'esirion, Kemo Venre'emim, ay, Kol Adonai, Chotev Lavot Esh, Kol Adonai, Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai, Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai, Yechol El Ayalot, Vayecheso, Ye'arot, Uvehechalo, Kulo Omer Kavod, ay, Adonai,
למה בו ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום היי יאי היי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 יאי ניי 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 yai nai 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 yai nai nai yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai 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 nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 nai. All right, yeah, somehow the chairs got moved around a little bit. It meant to be exactly what you're doing. Thank you, board member greeter Stacy. And welcome Scott, Amy, and Steve. All right, we're going to turn to Lecha Dodi, page 15, page 15. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei shava nekabela. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולעילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Bottom of 17. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and face the entrance. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. And we say to any mourners in our midst, Hamakom Menachem Etchem B'tok Sha'ar V'lei Tzion V'Yerushalayim, may God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And we may be seated. We are on page 19. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We continue silently, pages 19 and 20. Tzadika tamar yifrach, kerez balvanon yisgeh, shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot, Eloheinu yafrichu, od yenuvun beseva. Deshenim v'rahananim yiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. Page 21. Adonai malach yot lavesh. Lavesh Adonai osita zarafti kon tevel baltimot. Nachon kisacha meaz mlamata. Nasunarot kolam. Nasunarot Adonai. Nasurot kolam. Yisunarot ochyam. Mi kolod maim. Maim rabim adirim. Mishpereyam. Adir bamarom. Adonai Erotecha Ne'emnu me'od Leveitecha nava Kodesh Adonai Leorech Yamim. Please rise, page 22, the call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Yay la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Va'ed. And we can be seated, praising creation, the evening sky. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. Boreyom v'layla, goleler mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Maviyom uvein layla, mavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tza'ot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch, aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Page 24. Ahavat olam. Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavita, Amcha Ahavita. Torah umitzvot, Hukim umishpatim, Otanu Otanu limadita. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, kumenu nesiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed. Ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla. Bevatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch ata Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Ohev Amo Yisrael. Page 25, the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavecha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol meodecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta baham, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha, kshartam leot al yadecha, v'yu letotafot bein einecha, uchtavtam al mizuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Continue silently. On the bottom of page 29. L'mahan tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lo'echem ani Adonai lo'echem asher hotzeti etchem eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Adonai Elohechem emet. We're about to be on page 32. I mentioned earlier that I kind of heard from Murray Davis tonight, and I was going to introduce a different Micha Mocha tune, one of the 12 or so that I did last week, but since I heard from him tonight, I'll start that next week instead. It is also the anniversary of Corey Davis, Murray's son's bar mitzvah. He had Yitro, and the reason I remember that is that Murray wrote a song with the Ten Commandments in it. It's Anochi Adonai Elohecha. I can't really do it. It's really a rock song, but if you have the Rock and Roll Shabbat CD from the synagogue, listen to it. It's a beautiful, beautiful song, and so Mazel Tov to Corey on the anniversary of his bar mitzvah with his grandfather in the prayer book, his name in the prayer book, and his father's name behind my head. Page 32. Mi chamocha Ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot Oseh fele Nora tehilot Oseh fele Malchutecha ra'u v'necha Bokeh hayam lifnei Moshe Ze'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael 1, 2, 3 for me chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot Oseh fele Nora tehilot Osefele, Nora Tehilot, Osefele. Great clap in there, Ann, in the back. Wonderful. All right, page 33, page 33. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom, V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Leshalom, V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu Lechaim. Ushmor Tzeiteinu Lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, ve'ha'amidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, ve'ha'amidenu malkeinu lechaim. Frosalenu Sukkot Shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Haparei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. Please rise for Vishamru. Clap to the rhythm of the guitar if you can. Shamru V'nei Yisrael, et HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, Ledorotam Berit Olam. Beni V'nei Yisrael, Oti Le'olam. Oti le'olam, oti le'olam, ve'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz ve'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash ve'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. Chatzi Kaddish, page 35. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bilma divrach Yerutei v'amnich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei lechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'izman kari v'imeru, Amen. Yahei shmei Rabbah mevorach, Le'olam u'li'almei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'ishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei kudsha, barichu. Ve'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen. Private Amidah, pages 37 through 48. Ose Shalom Bimromav Ose Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Ose Shalom Bimromav. Kaddish Shalem. It's on page 53. Yitkadav yikrash shemei rabbah be'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chedechol beit Yisrael b'agalav izman kari ve'imeru amen yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam le'almei almaya yitbarach yitbarach v'shtabach v'yitbarach aseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yital shmei kudsha barichu le'elamin kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram b'yama ve'imeru amen Tikabalt sloton uva'utahon Dechol Yisrael kodam avohon divishmaya v'imeru amen Yeshlam rabmin shemaya v'chaim elene v'akol Yisrael v'imeru amen Oseh shalom bimromav Hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imeru amen. All right, we're going to pause for a moment while we do our presidential talk. We are up to Zachary Taylor this week as we are learning about the relationship between each U.S. president and the Jewish people. Zachary Taylor had almost none. In fact, probably most of you don't know that much about Zachary Taylor. He was a very short-lived president. He served just barely over a year before his premature death in office. He was from Virginia, like many of them. He was part of the Whig Party. He was nominally Episcopalian, but he really didn't care much about religion at all. Unlike some of his predecessors who were questioning, they were deists and theists and limited deists and really philosophical, Zachary Taylor, that wasn't his thing. He entered office in 1849 when the nation was being torn apart by slavery. He had almost no political experience at all. He was a popular general in the 1812 and Mexican Wars. He earned the nickname Old Rough and Ready. And because he was popular, they thought he could win. That's why he was the candidate. He was not well educated. He was a notoriously poor speller. And, there was no spell check back then. And that was actually one of the things that people valued. But they thought he could win. And they also knew that no one really knew anything about him. So he wasn't very controversial. And they also thought he might be able to diffuse some of the tension over slavery. What he actually said was the idea that I should become president seems to me to be too visionary to require a serious answer. It has never entered my head, nor is it likely to enter the head of any sane person. All right, so, he knew his limitations. Still, he ran. He had very few Jewish associations, partly because he had a short term in office, partly because he wasn't in politics, he was in the military virtually his whole adult life, and partly because he wasn't interested in religion in general. Now, neither, however, were many Jews in America interested in religion at that time either, as is evidenced by the rabbi of Baltimore Hebrew congregation during that time. I know this kind of has nothing to do with President Zachary Taylor, but he served during this time. And the Rabbi Abraham Joseph Rice, who was a German immigrant and was the first rabbi hired as a full-time rabbi, the first ordained rabbi hired in America, he resigned after 9 years and opened a dry goods store. He said, "The religious life in this land is on the lowest level. Most people eat foul food and desecrate the Sabbath in public. Thousands marry out of the faith. Under these circumstances, my mind is perplexed, and I wonder whether it is even permissible for a Jew to live in this land. So that's what happened with Abraham Joseph Rice, the only full-time rabbi during Zachary Taylor's term. The most famous Jew at the time, though, was not a rabbi. He was kind of one of the Jews that Rabbi Rice was talking about. His name was August Belmont, and it's a name you know because the horse race track and the race, Belmont Park, Belmont Stakes, is named after him. He was originally sent to the United States as an emissary of the Rothschild banking conglomerate. And back then, though, his name was Schoenberg. But he changed his name to Belmont, which means, Belmont, a beautiful mountain. He converted to Episcopalian Christianity, and he married the daughter of the famous naval commodore Matthew Perry and baptized his children. So he was not really associated with Judaism at all, but he was born Jewish. Still, he was the most famous born Jew during his time. That's kind of all I got on the Jews and Zachary Taylor, and even that was a stretch. There was a July 4th celebration, a hot July the 4th, in the words of Alan Sherman. It was a celebration for the Washington Monument, which was under construction at the time. It was a broiling sun. He went back to the White House. He devoured a bowl of cherries and a pitcher of cold milk. This led to diarrhea, vomiting, high fever, and death on July 9th, 5 days later. I know, it really is tragic, but that's Zachary Taylor. So next week we get the perhaps even more obscure Millard Fillmore, who's famous for being obscure. But anyway, there's a lot not to like about Millard Fillmore, but I'll leave you hanging till next week when we talk about him. All right. It's time to bless our children or one another if you happen to have them in your presence. There's a whole bunch of children here, mostly grown children. Well, teenage children, one adult child. And we say for females, Yisimech Elohim, or two adult children, Yisimech Elohim Kasara, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. For males, Yisimcha Elohim Kefraim v'Chimenashe, Yivarecha Adonai v'Yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Your Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. We now rise for the Aleinu, page 57. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer v'reshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu note shamayim veyoser aretz, umoshev yekaro bashamayim mima'al, ushchinat uzo, begov he miro mi'im, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efezulato, kakatu betorato, vedat hayom vehashevota, elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, v'ha'aretz mitachat einod. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yihye Adonai echad, ushemo echad. We may be seated as we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends whose yortzites occur during the coming week. Thinking especially this week of Lillian Adler, Helen Aldeff, Samuel Bandel, Eric Baum, Elizabeth Bernstein, Frida Blatter, Hyman Brodkey, Jean Charlesworth, Mark Evans Cypress, Avraham Elbert, Ethel Engel, Alexis Falker, Harold Tot Frankel, Paul Gilday, Arlene Gillette, Dorothy Glasser, Coleman Gluck, Shirley Goldberg, Pearl Goodman, Irving Garankin, Joseph Gould, Shirley Gould, Samuel Aaron Grinberg, Rose Hillman, Joseph Kay, Gertrude Kingston, Rose Kotz, Joseph Kvint, Carol G. Miller, Betty Moscow, Bernard Pollock, Melissa Ann Powers, Irma Robinson, Al Rothman, Charles Somers, Alan Stone, Milton Weiner, Erwin Weintraub, Julian Wolfe, Leonard Wolfe, Sam Wolfe, Joseph Zuckerberg. A special mention to the Goulds. Three of their four parents, Yortsites, are this week. And to Jordy Pollock, this is the Yortsite of her mother this week, and she was the one who had a beautiful baby boy today. So really amazing the way life works. We are in the Shloshim for Sid Rose, the father of Mike Rose. We want to offer our condolences to Allison Schindel, whose grandmother, Sylvia Kaplan, died this past week in Florida. And just yesterday, the funeral will be Tuesday at 11, private. Jack Coulter, electrician, epitome of the greatest generation, World War II veteran, mensch, just an incredible human being who died. Really such an important part of this congregation for so many decades. Jack, you will indeed be missed. The memories of all of them are with us. We ask all those who are in mourning or observing Yortside, as well as anyone else who would choose to do so, to join me in the mourner's Kaddish right now. It's on page 61. 61. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach irutei v'amlich malchutei, Michayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala uvizman kari v'imaru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach leolam al mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudsha barichu. La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. May the memory of the people you're thinking of tonight be a blessing to you always, and let us say amen. All right, we may be seated. Some announcements. Tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Services will be in the courtyard for the bar mitzvah. Oliver Goldman, his family and friends, but it will be streamed live on YouTube and maybe Facebook. Facebook is having technical issues, so head on over to the YouTube channel if you can't find it on Facebook. Just type in Rabbi Mark Bloom in the YouTube search engine. You'll come up with the live stream. That's 9:30 tomorrow. Next Saturday morning, we have Camelia Schwartz becoming bat mitzvah, and later this month, Purim. There's going to be a virtual Zoom Megillah reading. There are some parodies being prepared. There is a drive-through parade/carnival. Only enough time for 60 cars. It's going to be the Oakland Coliseum. If you want to sign up quickly. If we have way more than that, we will do an alternative one in our own parking lot that'll be a little different, but at a different time. But nevertheless, it's pretty exciting, and to have the Oakland A's Coliseum parking lot, and they've been really, really wonderful to work with us, which we greatly appreciate. So there's that. Also, I forgot to send the email, and I'll send this next week. If you have a picture of you making Hamantashen, or of Hamantashen that you made, I want you to email them to me, because that's going to be part of the presentation on the Zoom call. So I want pictures of you and your Hamantashen. All right, I think that is it for the announcements. All right, so, and if you're watching, you're kind of not going to understand this first part, but, so the closing song, I often, because Susan has a favorite song, I often do that, but it's Dennis's Yortzeit today. So this is more with Dennis in mind, but not really. I just think he'll like and appreciate this a lot, as will maybe some of you, and some of you won't appreciate it at all. But as when famous musicians die, we honor them, okay? That's what I've been doing since this pandemic began. And a man named Hilton Valentine died this week. He was not the lead singer of the band The Animals. He was the main guitar player, and he created one of the most famous riffs, famous picks of all time, which I don't do very well, but I'm going to do it anyway. This song, it's certainly not a Jewish song. It is in a way a religious song because it is about redemption and rebirth and trying to overcome obstacles. The House of the Rising Sun. Hilton Valentine, lead guitarist. And hopefully I'll remember the words. I don't actually have them printed out. There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I am one. It's got God in it. My mother, she was a tailor, and she sewed my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man way down in New Orleans. Now the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time that he's satisfied is when he's on the drunk. Oh, mothers, tell your children not to do what I have done and spend your life in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. With one foot on the platform and one foot on the train, I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I am one. Shabbat Shalom, and let's be safe and careful out there.